Juice players of the fall.
Oh,
I know I'm putting you on the spot. I have to do
you
it.
didn't even give me a heads up on that puppy. Guys that just come out here every day and just work. I would think the first one would probably be Ethan O'Connor, on defense. I think he stood out the most. And it's just through his tremendous amount of growth off the field, on the field. We're going to be counting on him to do some big things. Cyrus Webster, I think, is a guy who just comes out here and grinds every day. Reminds me a little bit of that BJ attitude, where he just comes out here and just grinds it. So excited about him. On the offensive side, I'll give one to John. I thought it was a competitive, environment that he was in every day, and that can put a little stress and strain on you, but I thought he did a good job of coming out here and doing it. Wayshawn Parker would probably be the other one that would come to mind. And I got to go O-line. Let's go Brock Dew. Just a guy that does his job, doesn't get noticed a lot, but he's just a stalwart in there.
You mentioned Cyrus. I just kind of want to ask about the edges, kind of how you see that playing out with maybe, I think probably fair to say you won't have just the RJ, BJ 65 snaps a game anymore, but where do you kind of see the two deeps or kind of the roles playing out there?
A little sort out a little bit on game day. I really kind of see Cyrus and Eddie being those starters, but Eddie's going to kind of kick in and out a little bit. So obviously Noosey will be a high volume guy. Ram has proven to be a high volume guy, and then Bobby and Quinn, kind of continue to carve out their roles. So some of these as you go, like the edge position or the running back position, like they got to do it on Saturday, and that's going to kind of continue to sort some things out as we go. So game one will be a big test for that room. And they know they got to go out there and they got to play at max capacity. So I think that's a positive thing.
What do you feel like Cyrus and Eddie kind of did? And maybe you said maybe the guys that they start out with. What do you think they did to earn it?
We got to put two guys out first, and I don't know if they've done anything in particular besides they bring physicality, effort, energy every day. But I think that whole room, every one of them have their strengths, and I think as long as they're playing to their strengths, it's going to be a really, really successful group, and I think we do have some playmakers in there. I think Ram is really taking that next step in his pass rush, which is what we've all wanted to see. He finally made it through camp healthy, which is a huge plus. Quinn is just a wily veteran, and I think Bobby is a just try-hard dude that just any situation he sees himself in seems to be really successful. So it'll be fun to watch these guys.
And then notice, just looking at the roster the other day, Ty Favai no longer listed. Just any update on that?
Ty, has been dismissed from the team. I mean, you got to take care of your academic business, and it didn't work out that way. So it's got to be a learn for everybody else here.
I want to ask about John's recruitment. I know you gave Eric Morris a lot of credit for that on Monday. Just what do you remember about that whole process, and how involved were you with that?
Well, I think the other person I miss is Rob Schlager, our general manager. I think he's one of the best in the country. We had a quarterback committed. We evaluated him because I wasn't involved in those big decisions at that time. Decided to drop him and kind of open it up. And it led us through a wide-ranging group of people to John. And, Coach Schlager, myself at that time, we were just kind of keeping that class together. And then Eric was around the country kind of evaluating those guys. And I remember just watching the workout and being, this guy has a special pop, special intangibles, great with his feet. He was a big baseball kid. So we look at the kind of the quick trigger of getting the ball out. John could do that very well. And we felt that he had a high ceiling. So it really came down to all those things. And then we made a big decision to bring John in.
With him sticking around, during camp's tenure the last 2 years and having to go through the battle with Zevi during fall camp, I'm curious kind of like if those things had not been part of his life, do you think he still would have worked as hard to get the starting role, or just kind of the impact of going through that the last couple of years?
Well, you go through John's background, and I don't think any part of his journey has been easy. And I think today's world, these kids put a lot of pressure on themselves, to play Power 5 football. And if I don't get those offers, I'm not enough. He just kept grinding and kept believing. And I think that's just to the character traits of John and his work ethic and ultimately his belief level in himself. And when he got here, I just told him, just be yourself. Don't try to be something you're not. And I think the work ethic piece has always been part of John, and that's how he creates success for himself. And we'll expect that to continue, now that he's the leader of this team.
Coach, can you just talk about a little bit? We've seen the pop that Wayshawn Parker has, but can you just tell us how you see the running back position shaking out?
I think it's been one of our most difficult kind of to evaluate as you go, because we really only had one true live session in fall camp. but I think we have some talented ball carriers, you know, and I think Wayshawn and Leo with the ball in their hand they're different, you know, and then you got Javinsky's strength is getting downhill and being extremely physical. There's packages for that. And then DP is probably our best all-around guy that just knows the scheme and does every little detail to perfection. So it's a tough balance, you know, of guys that are ultra talented might make a few more mistakes, but getting those guys out there because they can make a ton of plays for you. So just like the edge position, that running back is one that has to be sorted out a little bit more as we go through live action on game day. Don't make a big deal of who runs out there first. You know, the people that are out there last are going to be the most important. So we got a great group. We've completely elevated that room, and I think it's going to be a big plus for our football team that those guys are competitive every day.
And then on the defensive side, I mean, it seems like secondary is where the most competition battles have been taking place. How do you feel about that group as a whole, and who stood out?
Well, I think it's kind of the biggest thing we're going into fall camp that maybe we had the biggest question mark. Who's going to be those secondary players? I'll start at corner. You know, I think those guys have all risen to a high level. And for all of them to be young players, you know, you're talking Jamori, Ethan, Steve, Kenny Worthy, Jalen Edmond, Warren Smith, I think they all have big futures. So we knew they were young, but we really knew as athletes they could go out there and get it. And I feel very comfortable there. It's been a little bit of a mixed group in the back end because of Boogie's injury. Tyson was down. Boogie provides that flexibility to go from free to strong. Tyson is a big-time playmaker at free safety, and Capena and Jure are just really solid at that nickel position, and been really proud of Jackson Latamua. He didn't get what he wanted out of the spring. He was a little injured, but his leadership qualities and his attention to detail have been phenomenal for these first 3 weeks, so we expect that to continue.
Just want to check real quick, kind of see how Carlos's recovery is kind of coming along.
Carlos is good. He's now in the boot. He's in the underwater treadmill. I believe he's slightly ahead of schedule. You know, from surgery date, it was 8 weeks, you know, so we're still targeting that bye week. But that's not his target. His target is as soon as possible, and it's refreshing to see. He's off the scooter. He's walking around. He's got great positive energy. I just love where he's at right now. All right, guys, go Cougs.